pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Bill, before you start the meeting, there are several people in, although they all do not have their video on. So I'm going to ask you all to put your video on so the board knows who's attending the meeting via Zoom, please, and to turn off your microphones.
I'm not getting a video of the meeting room.
No, I know.
Maybe-
Hold on 1 second. I just realized ours is not on.
Thank you. There we go. Thanks.
Okay, so if you could all mute yourself, that would be lovely. David McMillan, can you put your video on? And Mr. Rob Teeters, please. Just for the board's edification, Dennis DeAndrea, John Crane, Mary Grossman, Pat, David McMillan, and Rob Teeters are joining us via Zoom. Okay.
First order of business is to open a public hearing on local law number 6 of 2022, which would amend sections 197-6, 197-8, and 197-18 of the village code, which grants a tax exemption for senior citizens and disabled persons. As I understand it, this change to the code would simply align us with what the state is. Whenever the state updates, we would no longer have to incorporate into our code what the state is updating. This simply says that whenever the state changes the limits on income levels, things like that, that we will recognize those exemptions. Is there anyone here to speak for or against this? Anyone on the board? Any comments?
No.
I mean, it's a simplification of the process. No takers?
Hearing that motion to close the public hearing.
Yeah, I make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Thank you.
Let's see, where are we? Let's see, we have a lot line modification, Gretchen Topping and Corner House and Hydroponic LLC. As I understand it, they still are not able to get all the papers in alignment, and they have asked for a adjournment. I'd like to make a motion to adjourn this item still for 90 days. Do I have a second?
Actually, the Gretchen Topping one has been going from meeting to meeting. We are waiting for the document to be accepted by the town of Southampton to buy the CPF funds.
Right.
So it's a bit of a catch-22, but the town does not need to have the village's approval in order for them to go forward with the acquisition of the CPF through the CPF funds. We hope to have that in place because I've spoken to, there's 3 attorneys involved for the cousins. And we hope to have that in place by November. So hopefully I'll be able to put it on the agenda for the approval in November.
So 30-day adjournment.
Okay. Motion to adjourn for 30 days. Do I have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Final subdivision application from Meadowmere. They're still waiting for Suffolk County Board of Health approval, and they've asked for us to adjourn it for another 90 days. I'll make a motion to adjourn their application for another 90 days. Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Minutes.
No minutes, and the ones I gave you are not completed.
Okay, we'll skip over approval of minutes.
Right over there. Yep.
Okay. Correspondence, we have the Southampton Town Police Department monthly report for the month of September. Everybody's got a copy of it, and
It just arrived yesterday, so I don't know if you had a chance to look at it.
Yeah, I have it. Oh,
do you want to discuss it now?
sure, I can do it quickly.
Sure. Okay.
Some things are up and some things are down. The abandoned 911 calls are down from 18 in August to 5 in September. Accidents with no personal injury are up from 3 to 5 from August to September. All of this is from August to September. Accidents with personal injury is up from 0 to 2. Alarm burglaries are up from 11 to 15. Alarm carbon monoxides are up from 5 to 8, and alarm fires are up from 15 to 34. Fire alarms, yeah, all probably false.
Right.
Yeah, and then there were 3 arrests on traffic VMTs. And they were, throughout the village. Sag Road and Montauk Highway. One was on Montauk Highway and Town Line Road, and another was on. I should have written this down. Poxy Bog Lane and Montauk Highway. Arrests were made. And let's see. Tent inspections were down from 7 to 4. Ordinance of noise down from 15 to 4. Reckless erratic drivers down from 8 to 5. Traffic stops from 120 to 115 in September. And that's it. Everything else is pretty.
Nothing stands out as being a red flag or anything, pretty typical, you think?
Yeah. There was a marine incident, I don't know what it was. And there was a mental person on Gibson. Lisa.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Just kidding.
Let's see, traffic calming measures, safety measures. I guess everybody noticed that they started to rebuild Sagaponic Road between the school and the village line. I actually had a chance to go and survey the road when the engineer laid out the work with a representative foreman from Rosemar Paving, who's actually doing it. And it's somewhat educational to see what they look for and look at. I didn't realize it did as much surveying as they did beforehand. They clean out the storm drains, and part of that is to inspect and see if there are connecting drains to them. And they discuss the possibility of pipes running off to other drains, as they do in a lot of areas. I don't think they found anything like that, but I know they're putting in additional draining on the drainage on the corner where the road bends, clearing out the
Phragmites
yeah, on that side.
and bamboo.
Yeah. It'll probably come back.
Dunham's
but-
Corner, they call that, or
Yeah.
they used to.
Right. Well, I said that, nobody knew what it was. so
Oh,
figured-
well, I know what it is.
All those people out here.
Right.
No more Dunham.
Anyway, it's underway. I believe, well, the first step is the chewing up of that road, repaving it, drainage. There are a couple spots that need to be widened a little bit. The end result's going to be two 10-foot traffic lanes with 4-foot shoulders on both sides. As it is, it's pretty close to that, but they're going to even it out because right now it kind of goes in and out in terms of width, and they're going to regularize it. The speed bumps by the school will go in after the paving's finished. And the 2 speed tables on Hedges Lane, I went out and saw them mark that. So they're in as good a place as you can put them. One's going to be a 20-foot length one, the other one's going to be a 22-foot length speed table. And that'll give us an opportunity to compare. Supposedly the 20-foot one is, I believe it was 25-mile-an-hour speed, whatever that means. I'm not sure if that means you go over to 25 and it's not problematic, or we'll find out. But I mean, it's what they're using in a lot of other places in the country. And the paving guy said that they some communities. So it'll be a first step for us to see how these things operate, what they do, and what they're like to drive over them. Let's see, Town Line Road.
I have a question.
Oh, yeah, sure.
How many days will the road be closed down?
Pretty rapidly. I was surprised how quick they work. I mean, I saw the correspondence they gave you, Rhodey, and it's
They are proposing to start tomorrow, though of course it's weather, depending on the weather. It's supposed to rain tomorrow afternoon and Friday morning. So they're supposed to, they may start it tomorrow, they may hold
Well,
off.
it's already closed, the road.
No,
Yeah. Sagaponic Road.
I think they have one-way traffic.
one-way traffic.
Yeah,
They are closing it
It
only
looks
on
closed
the
going
west.
west.
Oh, it said road
Going west.
closed.
Yeah, going west. And that's for tomorrow to chop it up. That's the first thing they do. They're gonna do one lane at a time. They're gonna detour the traffic going west down to Bridge Lane while they do the west side.
Okay.
But they hope to do their reclamation, the chopping it up and then repaving in one shot, in one day.
So they work on
Monday-
Saturdays?
They only work on Saturdays if we let them work on Saturdays,
Oh.
but I don't think that perhaps this is that big of a job that they would do. We have allowed them to do that on other jobs. But they are supposed to be all finished by the end of next week. The school has been notified, and all the residents whose email addresses I had been notified.
Okay. I have another question.
Mhm.
The sign at the post office, the first time it got knocked down, I fixed,
Crosswalk sign.
yeah,
Oh, you were the one
I
that
fixed it.
Thank you.
with, it needs push pins.
I know.
They're gone. Oh, one is in it or was. So I jerry rigged it with twigs. But then I guess somebody ran into it
Yep,
again
it's down again.
and now it's back up.
Yeah,
But
that's
the
because
other-
Abby is getting zip ties and she's gonna go out there and
Okay.
fix it. We have the other one sitting in there that got taken down. So that, that first one, all the pins went out. So we had to replace it
Pins
with,
don't stay.
right, the pins that they.
But twigs work until it
Twigs.
gets run over again.
Well, we're getting zip ties. So
Okay, there you go.
hopefully, thank you for repairing that. We didn't know who did it.
Yeah, I did it.
We have to, it's an ongoing repair.
Yeah, it was temporary for sure. Okay, that's it.
Okay.
Town Line Road, the property lines have been marked a few days ago. And I don't know.
Excuse me,
Just a minute, Mr. McCrane, we know you have your hand up, so let the mayor start here.
it's on the traffic safety, not on Town Line Road?
No, he's going into town 9 right now.
Yes, I know, but my questions have to do with the traffic safety agenda item.
You want to see the
Okay.
comments again?
Sure. Yep, go ahead.
Yeah, two things. I'm curious, what was the final width of the pavement for the repaving? And as it's going to be, I assume, white striped on the sides, will it be 3 feet from the white stripe to the edge of the pavement?
There'll be a 4-foot edge outside the white line, both sides of the road.
Okay.
4 feet on one side, a 10-foot traffic lane, another 10-foot traffic lane, and then 4 feet
28.
again on the other side.
Okay, excellent. Yeah, it wasn't clear to me whether the final width
Yeah.
outside the traffic lanes would be 4 feet on a side or 3 feet. 4 feet's better. Thank you.
And this road is not, there's portions of Sagaponack Road that is already 28 feet wide. So
Right.
this is much wide, is wider than Sag Main Street, Hedges and Daniels. So that is the
Excellent.
reason why this one's at 28, because there are portions that already are. So they just are evening it out all the way down.
Great, thank you. Second question. If I remember correctly, a couple of board meetings ago, there was a resolution that approved a new village-wide speed limit of 25, now that it's permitted by New York State. And I'm curious if there is a timeline for changing the speed limit signs. I noticed coming down Town Line Road that it's still posted as 30.
I placed I sent the email over to the town highway department. They are the ones that switch out the signs, and it's their schedule. So I don't have an
Okay.
answer for you. At some point in the next couple of weeks, I would hope, because there's also additional yield and stop signs that they're going to install.
Okay, good. So it's in progress.
In the
And
works.
a final, a third question, kind of a segue into Town Line Road. I know that in certain circumstances, New York State can be petitioned for an even lower speed limit, such as we already have around the school, and Waynescott has around their school. And just to throw out an idea regarding Town Line Road, with East Hampton cars, no matter what we do on our side of the road, East Hampton, I'm sure, is still going to permit parking on their road. And that parking is still going to take up a good bit of the northbound traffic lane. So perhaps we could petition New York State to have a 20-mile-per-hour speed limit southbound on Town Line Road, south of Daniels Lane. That would help, no matter where we end up on our side of the street. I think a lower speed limit on that final stretch to the beach would be a safety improvement.
Sounds like a dream.
Indeed. All right. Thanks very much.
Yeah, I prefer physical obstructions because people ignore stop signs, they ignore speed limits. But
Yes, indeed. I guess I'm going on the theory that every little bit helps. If we find a way physically to keep them at 20, better yet. Thank you.
That's what speed tables are all about, and speed bumps. If you make them actually uncomfortable, then maybe people will obey it. Okay, Town Line Road, the edge of the village right of way has been marked. Did you trustees have any chance to go take a look at it? It's always interesting.
Yeah, I didn't get to.
Yeah. Okay.
Didn't realize.
Bill, there are several people online, as I explained. I don't know if you want to.
Why don't you, if they want to comment, that would be great.
Okay.
Who's next? Just pick one.
I don't know if anybody in the audience wants to speak.
I'll speak.
If you can come up here to the podium,
Yeah.
my dears.
Hi. My name is Abby Roshevsky. My mother recently passed away, so I am now the owner of 172 and 182 Town Line Road, along with my siblings. I just wanted to back up to where this all started with, I believe, someone on the East Hampton, the Waynescott side of the street, complaining during COVID about the numbers of cars going all the way back. It was rough. And all of a sudden then East Hampton police, who seem to have been allowing Southampton stickers on Town Line Road Beach, suddenly started ticketing. So then there were certain Sagaponack residents who then said, I should be able to park at Sagaponic beaches. I live in Sagaponic, and I don't want to buy a non-resident sticker to park on the opposite side of the street. So then everyone started to think, how do we park as Sagaponic residents on the Sagaponic side of the street, which, as everybody knows, is all kinds of problematic. I brought this up last year, but I have found, because I am going through my mother's things because she just passed. And I knew this had happened because 20 years before the village was incorporated in 1985, my parents complained to the town of Southampton that they lived on the Southampton side of Town Line Road and were not allowed to drive to their own beach and leave their car there. There was a lot of back and forth, and I found the letter from Martin Lang, who was the supervisor of Southampton at the time, saying, I've asked Supervisor Judith Hope of East Hampton to put a resolution before her town board authorizing the property owners of Town Line Road, Southampton Town, to have East Hampton parking stickers. Then the next letter is, enclosed, please find a copy of the resolution adopted at the East Hampton Town Board meeting of August 27th, 1985. And when Judith Hope was the supervisor of East Hampton, they adopted that whereas Southampton Town residents who reside on the west side of Town Line Road, Wainscott, occasionally suffer hardships by being prohibited from parking on the east side of the road, which is in East Hampton Town. And whereas the East Hampton Town Board wishes to correct any inequities resulting from the accident of municipal jurisdictional boundaries, now therefore be it resolved that the town board hereby adopts the following policy. The town clerk shall cause to be issued a resident parking permit sticker clearly marked Town Line Road to any applicant who produces proof of residing on Town Line Road. The town clerk is hereby directed to forward copies of this resolution to Supervisor Martin Lang, Southampton, and to Mrs. Nan Orszewski, Town Line Road, Wainscott. Obviously, a lot has changed in these 50 years or whatever it is, but the fact is that our side of the street, the Sagaponic side of the street, bears all of the essential infrastructure that is servicing both sides of the road. We have the telephone poles, we have the fire hydrants. So it seems to me that East Hampton should be able to issue a parking sticker, not for Town Line Road residents, but for a Town Line Road beach only sticker for Sagaponic Village residents who would like to go apply for it. Okay. It's all of the different environmental studies and the legal challenges and all, it would seem to me the most easy way to solve this problem for the 4 or 5 people in Sagaponic who actually would like to drive to Town Line Road Beach. I know that they have, according to Rhodey, not been interested in working with us in the past. I know that this year, after that dreadful accident on Town Line Road, which none of these things would have probably stopped from happening, they're a little more willing to work, I think, with the village. I know they, with the permitting parties and stuff this year. So perhaps they could be approached again with precedent of previously having had a Town Line Road sticker only, but instead of just for the people who live on the west side of Town Line Road, just for Sagaponic Village and for Town Line Road Beach only. So they're not giving away any parking at their town beaches unless you pay a non-resident sticker. But for people who live in Sagaponic and who want to go to the westernmost beach in their village, it seems that something should be able to be worked out, because clearly there's not going to be parking on both sides of the street. It's not wide enough. And again, if there's a fire and they're going to tie into the hydrant on our side of the street to put out their fire, we bear all of this. The power lines are going across the street into their houses. We're bearing the essential infrastructure. So let us have 25 freaking parking spots. That's my spiel.
Thank you. That's interesting.
And I've given a copy of this to Rhodey.
Okay. Who's next?
Okay, so if anyone on Zoom would like to speak, I have muted you all, so you have to unmute yourselves. So either raise your hand or unmute yourself and start chatting, identify yourself. Go ahead, Dennis, unmute yourself.
All right, this is about Town Line Road, of course. When I received a letter from the village, I immediately cleared my property in compliance with your letter. And I was thinking that my neighbors feel a bit confused about it all. But if my property is in conformity, they can just look at my property and do the same for their property, because then they have a visual example of what's respected. The problem is that I can't get the village to tell me if my property was done the way they wanted it done. So if I could if we and my neighbors could get that information, I think everybody would comply. Whereas they're hesitant.
Looks good. I've been down there. I noticed it. Very nice. We appreciate it. Thank you.
And also the village did have the town line survey and staked out last Tuesday. So there was a visual indication of where your property line is out there. Am I correct on that, Bill?
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
it's very helpful, actually.
Yep. No, it's perfect. We appreciate you taking care of it so quickly.
Would anyone else like to speak?
What?
Wait, John. Go ahead, John.
Let me just unmute. It seems to us on Town Line Road that this is not just about clearing encroachments. It seems like it's a piecemeal approach to the larger problem, which started with parking. And rather than take this piecemeal, as I noted in my letter to the village, which you presumably have in front of you, there's a very simple way to resolve this to everybody's satisfaction. All the village needs to do is figure out what you're trying to achieve. And nobody here believes it's simply clearing encroachments. Develop a plan to achieve that. Send the plan to us residents. Let us look at it and give you feedback. Consider it in a public meeting. Make adjustments as necessary. And repeat until there's agreement and the village can reach a considered decision. Is it just clearing encroachments? What about the sidewalk? There's been no public discussion of a sidewalk. There's been a few notes in the those agendas that have been published of the board meetings about a sidewalk, but nobody directly affected has been brought into that process. You have to do this in a comprehensive manner so that we're not back here month after month or year after year, dealing with one or another aspect of I don't know where we're going with this. Nobody on the road knows where we're going with this. It's not clear that the village knows where we are going with this. And I think you have an obligation to us to lay out what the objectives are of this whole process and explain how you plan to get there and what our role in this is, and to give us the opportunity to comment on it. That's a short summary of what I had in the letter I sent to the board yesterday, which you got today. That's all. You need to have a better process than you currently have so that we don't feel left out.
Okay, John, I'll give you a quick, what my vision is. I assume the trustees will go along with me. We need to get the encroachments out of the way. I envision a 5-foot wide sidewalk from Daniels Lane to just short of number 20. It would stop at number 20 at the property line. It would be handicapped accessible at either end. I envision no parking, no additional parking. As long as East Hampton encroaches on the travel lane headed north, I don't see how we can have any additional parking on our side of the road. I think it's a safety matter. I ran for mayor because I wanted to improve highway safety, the safety on our roads. And I think a sidewalk will definitely help that neighborhood. I have photos, and 3 times going down there in the last 10 days. The first time I was with a highway engineer looking at road conditions, and there was a person my age who was out in the road and moved into a driveway, and that person had a walker with those little tiny round wheels on them. And I've used them myself since I've had a few operations. And there's no reason that person should be out in the road trying to exercise. There should be a sidewalk there. And well, I forget, 3 days ago, I went down to look at the property line markings. And I looked back down the road and there were 5 people walking along, one of them pushing a baby carriage in the middle of the road. I don't think that's the way we should be operating. I think there needs to be a sidewalk to get people out of the road. And I don't envision any parking on the Sagaponic side, as long as the town of East Hampton has parking on their side of the road. There's just not enough room. The fact of the matter is, East Hampton has 16.5 feet of right-of-way, and they take up most of that with parking. Sagaponic has 33.5 feet of right-of-way, and because of their use of the road, we can't really use effectively what we have, but we can put in a sidewalk at least to get pedestrians out of the road. And you want a vision, there it is. It's pretty simple.
I think it needs to be more than just a 2-minute summary in a board meeting that very few people will take the time to go through on Zoom, or to wait a couple of months until the minutes get published. I think the village needs to publish it. Where is the sidewalk going to go? Exactly. Where in relation to the road? Will we have a little side piece on the road, white line stripe, like is the new standard for the village paving? Is it going to go right up against our property line? Is it going to be next to the road?
Phone poles. It would be on the west side of the phone poles, so it would be well separated from the road.
You need to write this down and you need to send it to residents so that we can consider it.
So John, what the mayor just explained is, as he just said, a vision. Now, the next step would be for the village to take that vision, go to the engineers and have them do a plan. We're not just going to throw somebody out there to throw a sidewalk down. So we don't have those plans yet, but it would be something that the engineers would provide. The board would go through it and can be sent out, be there for the public to review it. I also want to, for the record, just tell you who is on the Zoom right now. Bruce Sherman, Dennis DeAndrea. I'm not sure who the John is. There's no last name. John Crane, Bob Teeters, Susan Macy, Bill Sweeney and Viola White, Dana Lee, David McMillan, Grinquest, and I can't remember the first name, I've only got the last name here, Mary Grossman, Michael Walsh, and Pat Crane. So those are the people that are listening to all of this right now.
This is John Sykes at 28 Town Line Road. I'm the John, I guess.
Oh, okay, and then the John is John Sykes. Thank you. So I just
So going back to what the mayor just explained with people having to walk in the street, what you've described is what every other street in the village is like, except for the short stretch of sidewalk between the SAG store and the
I
school.
understand you're looking for some huge study. I don't want delaying tactics. I don't want somebody to run over there next summer. I would like to have people out of that street next summer. I understand every other road. I'd love to have a sidewalk in front of my house the next time I have to use a walker and I could get some exercise. But that's not realistic and that's not a hot spot. You happen to be in a hot spot. You know, what, we're going to delay. I mean, this is something that needs to get moving.
I just want to say I'm Louisa Grenquist and I speak for my mom, who is that person on the walker, and she doesn't want a sidewalk. I just thought I should mention that because Barbara Grenquist is the woman who sits on her bench, which might be removed possibly. I tried to move it back as far as I could. And we've been on the road for 50 years and she likes to go down the road that way. I mean, I'm just saying that because she's not here and I just think it bears saying.
So you're saying that she's a traffic calming person?
She makes me slow down. I guess also, do I have to stand up again to do this?
Does she have to stand up?
Well, that's the only way that they'll see you on the Zoom.
Sorry. I just want to say, having grown up on this road and since I was 4 years old and learning to ride my bike on that road, and when I had children, by the time I had kids, I wouldn't let them ride their bikes down to the beach by themselves because there was so much more traffic, but so much more houses. But we always trained them to walk in the middle of the road or ride their bikes in the middle of the road or on the East Hampton side because there are like 19 driveways. So even if you had some sort of sidewalk on that side of the road, you're crossing numerous driveways where people will be, you don't even have a chance to react, which is why I always told my kids, go down the middle so you can see anybody coming and go the other way. I'm vehemently opposed to the sidewalk. As I said last year, when I stood in front of this meeting, the village of Sagaponic was incorporated to help us retain some sense of our village after things were changing really rapidly. There are no sidewalks except on Main Street, and I live in Port Washington. I live in the suburbs. It's great. I don't want it out here to feel like the suburbs, and if I ride my bike, I'm still gonna ride on the street. As Louisa said, I used to babysit for Louisa. Her mother likes to be down. People, I don't think that's the traffic problem. And again, the accident that happened this summer, I don't think would have been avoided by any of this. In fact, if you were on a sidewalk on your bike, you would probably get hit by a truck, a landscaping truck. Which is why it's safest always to go straight down the yellow line so everybody can see you and you have a chance to move out of the way. And I appreciate your idea of safety, but with the telephone poles and fire hydrants and all of these driveways, and no matter how much you clear the verge, people are still going to have landscaping at the end of their driveway. They're going to emerge onto a sidewalk. So then you have to put like a stop sign on every driveway. It's crazy. That to me it just really doesn't work. I live in the suburbs.
So you say we should do nothing?
No, I think that we should. This started with somebody from Sagaponic wanting to park. We should deal with parking, letting people park there they want to. We should ask East Hampton, besides parallel parking only, it should say wheels on the grass. Pull yourself over as far as you can, not so that you can open your passenger side door and let the
I
person
know,
out.
you keep talking about East Hampton can do. I can't do anything with East Hampton. There's the supervisor, stonewall the previous mayor, and I have no desire to try to deal with them. I dealt with people upstream before, and you get nothing because you don't carry any votes with you.
Well, I don't know, I'm just saying, we were able to do it in the past by letter writing, and the town supervisors dealt with it. This year, there was an accident, so they should be a little more amenable to, can we please not have the risk of people parking illegally on our side of the street? Just let people park. And then I think the speed restrictions are great, any kind of speed limits, any kind of slowing down, any kind of signage, children at play, whatever. But I don't think that having people walk even closer to people's driveways with less visibility will actually make them safer, unless you have no privet at all.
So you think that your neighbors are irresponsible enough to speed out of their driveways?
I don't think it's
You know, I mean,
speeding.
personal responsibility. When I pull out of my driveway, I inch up because my neighbors tend to run by my house or bike by it.
Well, we certainly have different age people, and it's a good thing my mom is gone because she was somebody who didn't even turn her head, so we're good that she's not driving anymore. I just think that I know that even when I'm walking on the grass to stay off the road, it's dangerous. And, you know,
Yeah.
somebody, even with their backup camera now, they could be on you before it beeps.
Right.
I just don't think putting pedestrian traffic closer, further from the road and closer to people's houses and driveways is actually, I think it could be dangerous. And I would still instruct my children to walk down the middle of the road so they could react because people are on their phone. You know, yes, I expect people to be reasonable and courteous, aren't they? Only takes one. So I think that speed restrictions, I think that some of this verge clearing is very helpful because if a fire truck or an ambulance is coming and the parking on the East Hampton side of the street is making the road narrower, there's a place to step off safely, there's a place to ride your bike, and there's a place to pull your car over if past a fire hydrant or telephone pole. Get out of the way, let the emergency vehicle. I saw what Dennis did. His berm being removed makes it so there could be a turnaround at the end, so nobody has to back up to get off that beach. That's a big safety thing, to be able to have a turnaround in there, so everybody's driving in a forward direction. I think those are great steps. I'm just saying, I don't want Town Line Road to look like the suburbs, and the 5-foot sidewalk it's wider than anything on Sag Main Street. It's wider than what I have in Port Washington. It's like 5 feet, yikes. That's my,
That's
yikes.
two-way
don't-
traffic
don't-
on the sidewalk.
Don't sit down, don't sit down. Let's see, well, I mean, you're working with us.
I am, I'm tired. Listen,
Yeah.
for a year and a half.
If we widen the road and put some, a walking area outside the traffic lane,
The problem is that the infrastructure is there, so we've already, there's telephone poles, there's fire hydrants, there's now water.
well, I'm talking about 3 feet. If you gave people a white line and 3 feet outside of it, that's,
I mean, the telephone pole at the end of our driveway is this far from the road,
well, that's 3 feet.
okay? You wanna widen the road right up to the poles?
Well, for pedestrians, it's not a problem. You can walk by a pole.
Listen, you know, anything that made it wider, but I also, the idea of like a white stripe and a bike lane sign, it's all so suburban to me. I couldn't stand it when they painted the double line on the road. I just, country, it's
Yeah.
supposed to be the country, it's not supposed to be, I don't know, it's just.
Well, there's a lot of pressure.
I
And
know.
I mean, when I was a kid, I rode around on a bike or walked day and night with no fear of anything. You never thought about traffic at all.
I used to ride my horse from Toppings all the way to my house, just
Right.
across potato fields, get off, go to the back of my lunch, ride back.
Right.
And you
Well,
could see cars coming 2 miles away.
It's
so
not,
you could
it's
get
not
out of the
that
way.
way anymore. We
I
have a lot
I
more
know,
We've all
houses.
had
I
The
mean, maybe
amount
there's
of
a way
people.
to do a widen the road without like a whole lot of like cross hatching or
You don't have
something.
to, it's not done anywhere else. We have a 4-foot shoulder on all the new roads
Right,
that there's just a line marking the edge of the traffic lane and then there's black asphalt.
so
And that's what
maybe,
people
so
do.
maybe it gets widened to where the telephone poles are, because everybody's got a telephone pole, so everybody knows that's not their property.
Right.
And it just makes it a little wider, so that, yeah, the car doesn't run you off the road if you're riding your bike. People are still gonna push their baby carriages down the middle of the street, especially even if you had a sidewalk, you're then going over people's stone driveway, gravel driveway, people's this. If you're pushing anything, you're gonna wanna be on the street that's paved all the way down. So maybe, yeah, maybe if there's a way to widen the street. So, because East Hampton only gives us half a street when there's parking,
Right.
that the road is wide enough even for 2 cars to pass without mowing someone down.
Yeah, okay. Oh, that's very helpful.
Well,
Thank you.
for listening.
I agree that there is an issue with putting a sidewalk up with all the 19 driveways.
Nightmare.
Yeah, and I don't know what I would say about changing
Yeah.
something, but I had a question about East Hampton. When they were agreeing to the stop signs, did anyone mention about removing their infringements on the west side of the road so that their cars can park without their cars in
I
the
think he
north?
said something, they look at it, whatever that means.
There wasn't a deep discussion about that. It was mainly about.
Well,
getting
that's
those
what we
stop
need to
signs.
get them to do, is the same thing that we're doing, remove the infringements on the other side of the road so that their people who are parking over there, or whoever parks over there, parks out of the road.
Amen. Why is it all the burden on our side of the road? We
Well,
should also be trying to.
we have you guys written to East Hampton, town about
I'd be happy to, you know, I'm not.
all the help we can get, you know?
Okay, well, maybe we can do a town line road letter writing.
Yeah, that'd be a great idea. I agree, it's a dilemma. I don't want to see much change down there either. But there is a safety issue, so.
I just appreciate that, Mr. Mayor and the board for you listening to your constituents. I don't think there's a delay tactic going on.
Introduce yourself, please, for the record, just introduce yourself.
Oh, I'm
please.
sorry, John Sykes at 28 Town Line Road. We
Thank you.
appreciate you taking the time to listen to your constituents. And I don't think I mean, I'm new to this conversation. I just got in, but I don't hear delay tactics. I just hear concerns and some confusion on behalf of your constituents as to what the reasoning, the plans, and have you done the right surveys, and to get a letter saying, do this by 30 days, otherwise we're going to tear your hedges out. Just was
Oh, I
just
didn't say
confusing.
that. That's a little harsh.
Well, anyway, but I think we're all in this together, and we appreciate the time you've given us. You're hearing from, I think John was very eloquent what he did, what he said, and I heard the woman just speak. There's just some questions, and everyone wants safety. It's just a question of what is the process? Has it been thought out? And at the end, we'll do the right thing. I just want to say, appreciate you hearing us and giving us the time today.
Thank you. Bruce Sherman wants to talk.
Okay, let's see. I see you, Susan. I
Bruce
did-
Sherman.
Where is Bruce? I don't see him.
On
Oh,
the
there he
left,
is. Okay, Bruce, we'll go with you first. Hang on, Susan.
Thank you, Bruce Sherman. Just a 5-foot sidewalk is ugly. And it's such a beautiful, charming part of the world. Is there a consideration to design something, like when they built the High Line, they made it beautiful, and just, is there anyone in the design angle toward the sidewalk being charming, going with the area? Otherwise, it seems very brutal.
Like your driveway, Marilyn. Stepping stones and grass. Oh. Yeah, that's a good idea. Make it beautiful.
Although it would still mean that people wouldn't be able to push well and you'd still be closer to driveway. So I think the widening the road is better than.
Susan Macy.
Hi, I know I live on the East Hampton side, so, bear with me though. One of my concerns is whether there will be some kind of environmental impact study, especially for the homeowners that live down closer to the beach. If there's a sidewalk installed, in terms of, because they're in the flood zone. And there is a dune that's built up over the years in front of Dennis's 2 cottages. He is at a very low point, and I worry a little bit that if that dune is knocked down, that his houses are going to be flooded every time it rains. So I'm just wondering if there'd been any consideration, or if in fact you have to do it if it's a public or a municipal project. Whether you guys have, talked about that.
We look at it. We would look at it if it's necessary, and it's a sidewalk, which would have a minimus impact, but we would look at it.
Okay, thank you.
I'd like to say something if I could. I'm going to go back to something that John was saying about the. Sorry, my name is Bill Sweeney. My mom and I, we've lived at 80 Town Line Road since the 40s. I'd like to say that make a point that John was starting out about the what the sidewalk would be. And I'm not quite clear right now, for instance, is it on the road side of where the telephone poles are, or is it on the houses side of where the telephone poles are? Because which one is it? You said it was to the west, but I'm not really clear. Does that mean closer to the houses or closer to the road? Because it would make a difference. It would also, right now, when we drive off the road, is built sort of rounded so that the water flows off it. So we go off the road into our driveway. If you put how tall is the sidewalk? Will we need to fill in on our side and we'll get up over the sidewalk back down to the road? Or will the sidewalk go along and then dip for each one of the driveways? And if it will, I wouldn't want to walk on it with a walker, because sounds like it'll be like a bouncy road. So just telling us what it would be would help too. It's certainly, because it confuses and worries me, and it need not. If it's simple, then that's great. Tell me how it's going to work. I hope it would be on the if you're going to do it, that it would be on the street side of the telephone poles. But I don't know what is that. Do you know yet what which way that your thinking is for where it would be?
I was suggesting that it would be on the your side of the phone poles, but after listening to Abby, I would reconsider.
Well, that's good. That's a great example of why this is a good thing, and thank you for having us. And I hope you will continue to keep us informed, because that would be great to know which it was going to be, because it will make a significant difference. Anyway, that's all I wanted to tell you. Thank you.
And Bill, also if the board did decide to do the sidewalk, it would be done where there would be no bumps and humps, and all the driveways would be, if they're paved, they would all be put back to where it is. So it would be a smooth sidewalk. There wouldn't be, drop-offs and things of that nature if the board decides to do it. And the plans would be presented to the board, and the board would have to decide on spending the money on it. So we'd need a cost estimate before we did it. So there would be a lot of steps if the board decides to go with the sidewalk before we get to that. Even with the widening of the road, there's still those steps that have to be done before they make that final decision on spending the money on whatever way they want to do it, if they do it.
And we would let them know what the possibilities are.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So and if they did do it on the house side of the telephone poles, you'd have to fill in something between the poles, right? As far, it would be cement or whatever it would be. The road would have to go that way too, then, wouldn't it? Otherwise, you'd have a strip at least as wide as a telephone pole of glass there. I can't imagine. But
again,
what
that's the engineers. That's their job, to lay it out so it's safe and it makes sense and it's engineered properly. And that's what would come before the board if they decide to go that route.
All that, and also, as much as possible, not make it ugly.
Yeah.
What did he say?
It would make it ugly.
I said, yes, that the engineers should do a good job of making it safe, but we would hope that that it's not going to be ugly.
Bruce Sherman wants to talk.
Okay, Mr. Sherman again.
Yeah, Dr. Sherman, thank you. Forgive me, earlier I heard something, forgive me, but I think going slower would be a safety concern. Are speed bumps a thought, a consideration?
Absolutely.
Okay.
That would also have to be.
Because a lot of people psychologically they're in a hurry to get to the beach for some reason. Living on this road, some people go very fast and they're in a hurry. So speed bumps always slow that down. And secondly, the terrible accident that happened, had to do with a workman coming out of the driveway, not a homeowner. And you can't control, a workman wants to leave or, get back and get materials, whatever. I don't know the solution for that, but those are often accident prone because they're in a hurry. The workmen, they don't live there. I don't know the solution for that.
Oh, we
That's
can-
accident happened.
We already did. Dr. Sherman, just to let you all know, I did tell some of you right after the accident, the mayor had me, well, he actually drafted and we fine-tuned it. It's a notification that we give to every single construction site, both in Spanish and English, that there are safety precautions that they have to take when they back out of a property. They have to have a spotter there that backs the truck out. I can't remember all the things. There was 3 things on there that they have to do, but that is something that the village did after this terrible accident. You're right, we can't control it unless we stand there at every single site to make sure they adhere to it, but we have asked the contractors to please make their workers aware of it and to post these 2 documents on their construction site. Does anybody else want to speak? John Crane?
Yes, just a final thought having to do with one of the things that I know this board and the other boards, zoning board, AHRB, always take into account. And you do what you can to preserve the character of this very special place. And it's hard to do. Things have changed, they're never going back. But there are certain ways of looking at Town Line Road here that I think about going back to my childhood. A nice walk to the beach. Yes, you got to watch out for cars coming and going, and the driveway, and the folks parking on the other side of the road. But you learn to navigate. And I think the idea of a sidewalk would irrevocably change for the worse the character of this neighborhood. And I think that's something the board needs to think very seriously about. We'll never be the quaint village we were 50 years ago, but we don't need to be the Jersey Shore either. A few years ago, the village spent lots of time and lots of money to preserve the Sag Bridge. The original plan for the Sag Bridge was to bring it up to 21st century standards, which would have looked awful in that spot. And the village defended its ability to maintain the character of Sagaponack. Even for a bridge that had no architectural significance whatsoever and was in sight of what, half a dozen houses in Sagaponack? But it was such a charming entrance to the village. You went out of your way to preserve it as best you could, the way it was, to maintain the character of the neighborhood. I think you should do that for Town Line Road. And thanks for taking our input. We really appreciate it.
You did a great job. I really appreciate that. You gave an alternative and made some good points. I like that, but it's probably, I don't think we're going to widen the road anytime soon because we probably have to do it in conjunction with East Hampton. I don't think we can just get a decent paved job.
Half a road.
Yeah, half a road.
Right.
And any thought of a speed bump or speed table would also have to be in conjunction with East Hampton Town, which, I don't vote there, I have no power there. And generally, I'm not, though I've talked to people upstream from us, I generally don't have much authority with them. But I think that's a very workable idea, maybe to widen it a bit.
Well, it would also solve the problem of that, like a sidewalk or a pedestrian thing would not, of having more space for
Yeah.
wider vehicles, whether
Right.
they're landscapers or ambulances or fire vehicles. If, I know last year there were terrible pictures sent of like Saturday night with Plambix and everything, and you would not have been able to get down even our side of the street with an ambulance. So if the street were even 3 feet wider, and a sidewalk would not give you this, it would at least make it, in an emergency, a better road to navigate without changing the character of the road, because most people, you know, as long as you're only taking to the telephone poles on, you know, side of the street.
Right.
So that, and I think that if there's a way that we could get, you know, I'm happy to write a letter to the town supervisor and say, you know what, my mom died, I'm going through her stuff, and I'm remembering there was a town line road sticker, and this year there was a death on our road, and all this, is there no way that this, and just see what happens.
Yeah, no, if you get people together to slowly, you know, get a steady drumbeat, maybe it'll have an effect. Maybe you tell him you want to give money to his campaign or something.
I've got friends who live in East Hampton who have the big expensive houses, I'll get them to, you know, whatever.
Yeah, okay, no, that's
So,
great.
because I still think that this summer's over, but next summer, there's still gonna be people who are gonna be like, why can't I park on my Sagapine Beach?
Right.
Riding bike, but, so it's almost two problems, the parking problem started the rest of this problem. So
Right,
we should
right.
still be trying to make it work. Hopefully, but I really appreciate it being, you guys are really, you know, feel like it's a responsive.
Yeah,
Bill, I have a hand up.
what?
I have a hand up.
Susan
Oh,
Mason.
please.
Go ahead, Susan.
Thank you. You know, being a resident of East Hampton, I'm happy and I I'm pretty in touch with Peter and have, you know, speak to him frequently. I'm happy to try to help you guys in any way I can. Believe me, I hate it the way people park on the East Hampton side. It just makes me ill. And half the time they don't even park at all on the verge. They just park in the middle of the street and it makes me crazy. So I'm happy in any way I can help you guys to try to, you know, negotiate something or set up meetings, whatever. I'm happy to do that. So you just have to ask and I'll do what I can.
If you've been asked, please go ahead.
Okay, will do. I know last year somebody, I guess it's from the highway department, they did go from house to house and looked at the verges and people's hedges, et cetera. And, you know, people cut back, but our side of the road is very narrow. So, you know, unless they change that whole, you know, code, unfortunately, that's kind of what we're stuck with. But I wish that it would be enforced. That's the other problem, is enforcement. You know, it's not an easy thing, especially in East Hampton, because the town is so large and they don't have the manpower to keep somebody down at, you know, the end of our road. So as often as they should, actually. So anyway, just happy to help in any way I can. Also about the parking stickers. I
Susan,
certainly,
I'll be there with you. We're gonna write a letter.
okay. Will do. Thank you.
Request.
That's
I'm sorry,
Louisa.
is that
Louisa?
Louisa.
Okay.
Hi, Louisa Grenquist, 98 Town Line Road. I wanted to say, I think it's the first I've heard of the widening of the road option, and I feel like that's, you know, I could also go on about how I rode my bike and I grew up on that road and all of those things, but I also have 2 young children, and I think I'm the only person here who has a 7-year-old and a 4-year-old children at that age who are actively playing on that road. And we go up and down to the beach all the time, and the safety issue isn't honestly a sidewalk so much as the cars that are speeding down there, and more than anything, the landscaping vehicles and the construction vehicles, like the amount of construction that's been taking place down there, and people are rampant. And because my mom is there year round and she's 82 and she's on her own, you know, they just don't think that anybody's around after the summer. So they're doing whatever they feel like down there. And that particular construction site was like that all winter long, where the little boy was killed, as far as trucks going back and forth, and it just being incredibly just,
Unsafe.
yeah, negligent, but not in a way that you could necessarily record or find, obviously nobody was found at fault. But there's a sense of danger. I get a sense of danger from those big trucks and from the landscapers and from, they've got 10 million jobs to do. They're rushing to do them. They don't think anybody's regulating them or watching them because it's off season. They don't think anyone's around. I could go on and on, but
So what do you do about it? What do you do about it? What's the solution?
I mean, after recently, like this summer, I called the town and they came down and gave some tickets to some of the trucks that put their cones out. They just put their own traffic cones out on the road. They park on the road. That's more on Susan's side, but that's a rampant problem. All the landscaping trucks and trailers that have their own traffic cones that they just decide that they're gonna park along the side of the road and put out completely without. They're not allowed to park there. They don't have permits or anything like that. That's happening all up and down Town Line Road all the time. That's I don't know what we do. We just try to talk to the people and call the town, but just bringing it back to the sidewalk versus the widening of the road. I personally think that would at least help with the sense of danger that I have, because I have these two children, and if they're just playing with my mom, by her bench, they should be safe. It's technically it's not our property, but it's right there in front of our house. They should be safe to be there. But if a giant truck is backing up and these trailers are backing up back and forth, and just, as we know from the summer, one false move and it could be all over. So any extra space for that to happen, I think, is more important than people being able to park or walk along a sidewalk. Because I don't think anybody really has an issue with I don't know where that safety issue came up with pedestrians. I feel like most people who walk down there feel fine walking along the side of the road or the middle of the road, I guess. That just depends on who you ask. But anyway, I just wanted to say I like this widening of the road option, as long as it's not too wide. As long as it doesn't
You can't
like
grow
go,
very much.
but in general, yeah. I think it'd be safer, that's all, if that's what we're talking about, safety.
And we have Dr. Sherman again. Dr. Sherman, go ahead.
Yes, thank you. I'll be brief. Is there, tell me if I'm crazy, is there such a thing as a speed bump that only goes on one side of Town Line, on the Sagaponic?
Yeah, they would go around it and then they'd be driving down the wrong side of the road.
Yeah.
No, it has to cover the whole road.
Okay.
That's generally.
Hang on, Dana Lee.
Hi, Dana and Greg Lee at 108 Town Line Road, and I just wanted, to give thanks to the mayor and the board for allowing us to have this dialogue on our stretch of Town Line Road. As people who've been here for a long time, everyone's reflected, just the way it is on this stretch of Town Line, that people walk in the middle of the road. And, I think this summer I watched it a lot. People just did coexist very well and were very watchful, I think, of people with strollers and cyclists and young kids and cars parking. I think, to me, very much that's why we bought here, is because of the lovely nature of Sagaponic Village, and especially the charm of this particular stretch of road and being so close to the beach. But I think it's more of a mindfulness, and that to me would be a strong solution is, yes, possibly widening the road to allow for more space, but creating some kind of traffic calming measure, such as the speed bumps, or even lowering the speeds, as Rob also noted, to have drivers be aware that there is additional traffic, that there are additional pedestrians, bikers, or hazards, what have you. And right now, there isn't any encouragement for drivers to be aware because frankly, the speed limit is 30 miles per hour. They could drive 29 miles per hour and hit many people, but hey, they're still within the law. I understand lowering the speed limit is a state matter, that's under their jurisdiction. But if there's anything that we could do to try to at least get this side of Town Line Road south of Daniels to have a lower speed limit like a school zone to reflect, all this traffic, I think that would be, one part that could help a lot of this.
In terms of speed control devices, the village will have installed within a couple of weeks 4 variations of speed control devices. There'll be a 14-foot speed hump on Sagaponack Road.
Table.
What?
Table.
Well, it's properly called a hump. Anyway, and there'll be 2 12-footers. The length of the thing and the height to determine how much speed you can carry over it without being unduly disrupted. There'll be 2 12-footers as you approach and leave Sag School on Main Street. And then on Hedges Lane, there'll be a 20 and then a 22-foot. And it would be great if you people could take a look at them once they're installed, drive over them and see what you think. If you wanted to put one on Town Line Road, it would probably be maybe 100 feet south of the stop sign, south of the intersection with Daniels Lane. So it would be in front of somebody's house, but probably not in front of their driveway. Just consider it because you can lower the speed limit, but people pretty much ignore them. I mean, during the summer, we had somebody clocked at 80 miles an hour on Hedges Lane. A lot of 70-mile-an-hour speeds were clocked there and ticketed. And that's a 30-mile-an-hour zone. And I know what you mean going to Sag Main Beach. People drive at an incredible speed to a dead end, which just it's not at all logical, but that's what people do. But some kind of obstruction would help, I would think, if you can tolerate it. And it may be possible that East Hampton would let us install one. And if we did it at our expense, maybe that would work because they're not terribly expensive. Anyway, I think we've had enough. Why don't we need to move on. We have other things to get to. But I really appreciate you folks showing up. And Abby, you hit a home run. I mean, you got me turned around. We're going to make you citizen of the year. Anybody can change my mind. I get an idea and I want to run with it.
Well, I have to say, you're a wonderful man.
Yeah, just wait. But obstructions, anybody who has plantings or fences or whatever on village property really has to remove them. Because at least if people want to walk on the grass, they should have the right to do it. And it's really an ugly thing to try to take public property away from the rest of the citizens. I mean, you've got 20 houses there, and there's another 700 houses in this village who want to have access and at least be able to walk to the beach on grass if they want to. It is public property, so just get yourself off of it.
It will also allow for the landscape trucks to pull further off the road if there's more longer sections between phone poles and hydrants that don't have boulders or so.
Okay, thank you all.
Thank you.
Thanks, Abby. I've got 2 in the chat room just to wrap this up that suggested lowering the speed limit on that stretch of area. So,
I want to make a motion to appoint David McMillan as an alternate ZBA member, 1-year term to expire on July of 2023. We do need another alternate, especially with upcoming cases. I make a motion to appoint him. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And then I make a motion to appoint Anthony Woods to the fill the unexpired term of Pingree Lockheim, who was moved outside the district, and that term expires on July 2025. Make that motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much. Let's see, when we've got all this financial stuff, please take a look at it. Wow, tax collection reports, cool.
I'm still trying to get that one from 2 years.
Here we go.
It's in foreclosure, so hopefully.
Oh, wow.
Soon.
Let's see, Carrie did her report, Lisa is gallivanting, Jill is away, Marilyn Clark. Anything special going on?
So we went out with Brendan and Paul Brennan and Christina Martin to just to do a survey of the village to see about low hanging limbs over the roads and trees that have died. So Brendan's going to put together a proposal from the trees that we saw.
Which he has. I just sent it to the tree committee because I like the input from the tree committee before I say, yes, this looks good. So I'm waiting for the tree committee to get back to me. I thought I CC'd that to you.
You
but
might have.
I apologize if I
Crazy week
didn't.
and I didn't see it. I know you sent the police report, but I didn't see
This was
the tree one.
last week. I think he sent it last week.
Yeah, I could easily have missed it. It's one of those.
Yep. If not, I'll send it to you again. So hopefully by next week, you'll have it to approve.
Okay.
Let's see. The next monthly meeting, Wednesday the 19th at 3 o'clock.
Yep, going back to 3.
Do we have any other comments? Now we got down to the comment section. Everybody's gone.
Oh, yeah, everybody's out. The only one that's in there still is David McMillan. David, could you put your video on so the board can see your face now that you've been appointed? And perhaps you'd like to.
No.
Apparently not. He's still in
Okay.
there. Maybe he doesn't know he's still in there. David?
Very good.
I don't know if I can turn this camera on.
Have the TV on.
That'd be a little invasive.
I can't. I can turn them off. I can't turn them
Right,
back
right.
on.
Very good.
Brody has special powers.
Oh my God. Is there anything else
And the
you
agenda,
want to discuss? Anything else?
there's no executive session. We're
Oh,
still here.
oh,
Unless you want to go into executive. for
no,
something.
no. Let's see, Mary Grossman, let's see, her property line is where there's a line is on she has a line of privet on the property line.
On the west side,
Yes,
Yes,
she was on the call earlier.
yeah,
west of town line.
yes, she's one of the, number 64,
I
I
don't
think
think
it
she
is.
talked though.
She did not, but she was on.
Yeah. She has a fence which is a foot onto the village right of way and which is 5 feet tall, with 4 feet is only allowed. And then the plants, which she said were inches from her property line, are actually 8 foot into the right of way. And they happen to be Taxus. It's a Japanese yew. It's not a native shrub. It's something which was used for foundation planting. It still is in some areas. The foliage is toxic to humans and the pollen is toxic to humans. Not terribly toxic, but normally they're clipped so they never bloom. Anyway, there's no reason to keep them. They're really,
Oh, she wanted us to.
yeah.
Oh, were
yeah.
they trees? Were they the trees?
These things.
They're a foundation planting which has gone rogue, basically. Somebody put them in front of the fence to block the fence.
Right.
Yeah, and they've grown up over 50 years to be these huge things. But they do nothing for birds or pollinators or anything
Yeah.
else. And they're in the way.
That's a shame.
So just, you know, I know she would like to keep things on our property, but she can plant them on her property if she wants to. And she can move her fence to her property if she wants to. Anyway, I figured I know you commented that they should be left, but
Oh, we're gonna let her keep it.
It was-
Well,
it was-
well,
it was
I thought
false
they were
advertising.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I didn't know,
Yeah.
now that they're not good for birds or pollinators.
Yeah.
then that's-
I
That's
actually,
different.
Poison
Yeah.
trees.
Are you letting her keep the fence a
no,
foot taller?
no, she, you know.
No, the foot taller part,
The what?
foot taller part.
It's illegal.
It's
all over
John's
the town. John is,
It's
you know.
John's the only
telling
person that
people
can allow that is the
all
zoning
fence
board.
and-
Okay.
Yeah,
I'm asking the question, I'm
Yeah,
not
well-
telling you what to do.
and the
Yes,
fence
that's
is
it.
old.
So that's how you do
It's,
it.
it's not a new fence.
So
It's,
she wants to keep it
it's
that
not
way.
in great
She
shape,
has to
so.
appeal. It's something to protect.
Yeah.
So That's John's job to go
Well,
out and
that's too bad.
get that.
It's a shame though.
Yeah, well, you know where your property line is, don't build on somebody else's land. Probably, I heard that a number of people had lawyers call our attorney and ask about suing us and so on. They had an idea that maybe adverse possession worked for the village, but they don't get to take our real estate simply because they squatted on it.
Mhm.
But that's the kind of attitude you get out of some people. They'll take everything they can get. And then they say that they're good citizens when they want to steal.
But
them.
does this, I mean, so just to have it, you know, it is on village property, it's
Oh,
been
yeah.
there a long time. These, and actually for native trees and not poisonous trees, but, right, sorry. So, but is this, if there's kind of a lot of place for people to park and walk there, are we just telling
They're
her
in
to
the
take
way. I
down? the
can't
tree?
walk by them nicely.
Okay,
You know, if you're, maybe somebody shorter can, but there's no reason to have them there. If you get rid of them, I was going to suggest at some point that if people want to decorate the place, if you go up the street half a mile or something, there's a nursery on the East Hampton side, and if you see right along their fence, they've got Langostronium planted. It's a beautiful thing. It blooms late in the summer. It's got multi-stems, peeling bark, all this.
You
great
mean the
act-
crepe myrtle?
Yeah, crepe myrtle. Okay, botanical.
Okay.
I'm into Latin. So,
I like Latin too,
yeah.
but I know crepe myrtle better.
Or amelanchier is a great native shrub, you know, serviceberry. Shadwell, they're all over Montauk, they're hardy along the coast. There are other things that could be planted besides something like that. And if you have that there, you're not going to get the other ones in. Anyway.
How about we bury the telephone lines?
You know what that
that's
costs?
so expensive.
Well,
Yeah.
I know.
So I was looking into it for a house in Amagansett, and it had to do with the telephone poles were across the street, so it also included in that was getting the electricity to the house or the houses across the street, but between two poles was $70,000. That's
Whoa.
just, that's one stretch of
Yeah.
line. You know, it would have been
That's
so
better
much.
than a
more.
million, that's what I heard.
Cheap. But that's
I'd
just
love to
one,
see the
so it
poles
would be
go.
well over, you know, for 10, 20, I don't know how many.
We
poles
could
there are.
do 5 and skip a road.
Right. Well, one of the other problems is, this came up years ago, and Irizon came in and said the village should do that. And everybody who's got an overhead line would have to go to an underground entrance, so they'd have to rewire their house. And you start adding all these costs up, and it just, the cost is incredible. I told Myri to go out and write a report on it, bring it back to us, and she never came back.
Maybe a few hurricanes have changed people's minds.
Can we adjourn?
Sure, that's what you'd like to do.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.